Narrator, slow, emotional. 3 years. 3 long years. I kept telling myself that tomorrow would be different, that my wife would finally look at me the way she once did. 2-second pause. Narrator, soft. Tonight was our wedding anniversary. I decorated the table myself. I cooked her favorite dinner. I even bought fresh flowers. But the only thing waiting with me was silence. Phone notification sound. I grabbed my phone with hope. A single message. Victoria, cold, distant. Asterisk. I'm having dinner with Ryan. Don't wait for me. I'm busy. Asterisk. Narrator, hurt, quiet. Busy. That one word hurt more than any scream ever could. I looked at the food. It was already cold. Just like my marriage. I smiled. But only because crying had become a habit I could no longer afford. Slow breath. Happy anniversary, I whispered to the empty chair across from me. No answer. Only silence. The next morning, I forced myself back to work. I ignored the pain in my chest. I ignored the dizziness. I ignored myself because I had spent 3 years believing that if I worked harder, if I loved harder, if I sacrificed more, she would finally choose me. Then everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, bright hospital lights were staring back at me. Doctor, calm. Mr. Carter, your body is completely exhausted. You collapse from stress. You need rest. I nodded weakly. My hand reached for my phone. One unread message. My heart raced. Maybe she was finally coming. Maybe she was worried. I opened it. Victoria, cold. Asterisk. I'm in an important meeting. I can't come. Asterisk. That was all. No, are you okay? No, I'm sorry. No, I love you. Just another excuse. I closed my eyes. For the first time, I admitted the truth. I wasn't losing my wife. I had already lost her years ago. The only person I was still hurting was myself. After leaving the hospital, I walked alone beneath the evening sky. The city rushed around me. Cars passed. People laughed. Life moved forward. Without me, then a blinding light, the sound of screeching tires, a violent impact. My body hit the ground. Everything faded. With my last breath, I whispered, if I ever get another chance, I will never beg someone to love me again. Darkness swallowed everything. Then a familiar ringtone echoed through the silence. I opened my eyes. I was standing inside my old bedroom. The calendar on the wall showed a date from 3 years ago. Today was my wedding anniversary. Again, I stared at my trembling hands. My heart pounded. One impossible truth echoed inside my mind. I had been reborn. Narrator, calm, reflective. When I opened my eyes that morning, everything looked the same, but I wasn't the same man anymore. I had died once, and somehow life had given me another chance. 2-second pause. I walked to the calendar. The date was real. 3 years had disappeared. No, 3 years had returned to me. This time, I refused to waste them. Soft breath. In my previous life, I spent this morning planning a surprise for Victoria. Flowers, a romantic dinner, a handwritten letter. I remembered every detail. And I remembered how it ended, with an empty chair and a broken heart. Determined tone. Not this time. I folded the old letter and dropped it into the trash. That wasn't just paper. It was the old version of me. The man who believed love had to be earned. Door opens. I left the house without saying goodbye. For the first time in years, I chose myself. Daniel, friendly. Ethan, you're early. Me, calm. I can stay home. Daniel, asterisk. You look different. Me, asterisk. Maybe I finally opened my eyes. Daniel, concerned. Did something happen between you and Victoria? Short pause. I smiled, not because I was happy, because I was finally ready to tell the truth. Me, quietly. I've spent years begging someone to notice me. I kept giving everything. But nothing was ever enough. I'm done living like that. Daniel, serious. Then don't. You've always been stronger than you think. His words stayed with me. Nobody had ever said that to me before. Soft transition music. Later that afternoon, my phone rang. Victoria. In my previous life, I would have answered before the second ring. This time, I watched it stop. A moment later, another call, then another. Finally, a message appeared. Victoria, cold, slightly annoyed. Why aren't you answering? I looked at the screen. Then I locked my phone. No anger, no argument, just peace. Narrator, steady. Silence was more powerful than any fight. Scene change. That evening, Olivia knocked on my door. Olivia, gentle. Can I come in? Me, asterisk. Of course. She looked around the room. Then she looked at me. Olivia, asterisk. You've changed. Me, asterisk. Is it that obvious? Olivia, soft smile. You stopped pretending. You used to smile even when you were hurting. But today, you look free. Her words almost made me cry. Not because they hurt, because they were true. Me, emotional. I forgot what it felt like to choose myself. Olivia, asterisk. Then don't forget again. Brief pause. That night, Victoria came home. The house was quiet. No candles. No flowers. No dinner waiting. She frowned. Victoria, confused. Didn't you forget something? I looked at her calmly. Me, asterisk. No. She waited. She expected an apology. She expected me to chase her. Instead, I walked past her without another word. For the first time, she looked surprised. Narrator, firm. She thought I would always stay. She thought I would always forgive. She thought I would always wait. She was wrong. Hopeful tone. The next morning, I reopened old business files. Dreams I had abandoned. Opportunities one had ignored. A future I had sacrificed. One by one, I picked them back up. Not for revenge. Not to prove anyone wrong. But because I finally understood something. If I wanted a different ending, I had to become a different man. Closing, powerful. My second life had only just begun. And this time, I wasn't chasing love. I was chasing the man I was always meant to become. Narrator, calm, determined. The biggest mistake I made in my first life wasn't loving Victoria. It was abandoning myself. Every promotion, every dream, every opportunity, I gave them away without hesitation. I believed sacrifice would make my marriage stronger. Instead, it only made me invisible. 2-second pause. This time, I refused to repeat that mistake. My phone rang early that morning. An unknown number. Henry Lawson, confident, professional. Mr. Carter, I've reviewed your work. I'm impressed. I want you to lead our newest development project. Me, surprised. You still remember my proposal? Henry, asterisk. I don't forget talent. The only question is, will you finally choose yourself? Soft pause. In my previous life, I said no. I rejected the biggest opportunity in my career because Victoria wanted me working inside her company. But today, I smiled. Me, firm. I accept. Henry, pleased. Excellent. You won't regret this. Narrator, hopeful. The moment I ended that call, my future changed. Not because someone believed in me, because, for the first time, I believed in myself. Phone rings again. Another unfamiliar number. Michael, calm, mature. Ethan, this is Michael. I handled your father's legal affairs. I've been trying to reach you. My heart skipped. I remembered him. In my previous life, I ignored everyone's calls. Me, asterisk. I'm listening. Michael, asterisk. Your father left unfinished investments. They've grown far beyond their original value. You need to review the documents. You could lose everything if you continue waiting. Narrator, quietly. Lose everything. I already had. Once. Not again. Me, confident. I'll be there today. Scene transition. Hours later. Stacks of documents covered the table. Investment records. Business agreements. Property contracts. Everything I once walked away from simply because I wanted to help Victoria succeed. I closed my eyes. Me, softly. I gave away my own future. And she never even noticed. Michael, kind. Your father believed you built something extraordinary. Don't disappoint yourself again. His words stayed with me. Narrator asterisk. This wasn't luck. It was the future returning to the man who finally deserved it. Gentle transition. The following week, I met someone unexpected. Grace, warm, respectful. Good morning. I'm Grace. I'll be working with you. Unlike everyone else. She didn't look at me with pity. She didn't judge me. She simply smiled. A real smile. Me, polite. It's nice to meet you. Grace asterisk. I've read your designs. They're incredible. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because I couldn't remember the last time someone appreciated my work. Me, quiet. Thank you. That means more than you know. Grace, gentle. Then promise me something. Me asterisk. What? Grace asterisk. Don't underestimate yourself again. Narrator, soft. She didn't know my story. Yet somehow, she understood the part that mattered most. Respect. Something I had searched for inside my marriage, but found in a simple conversation. Phone vibrating repeatedly. Victoria. One missed call. Then another. Then another. Finally, I answered. Victoria, cold, impatient. Where are you? Me, calm. Working. Victoria asterisk. You were supposed to meet me. Me asterisk. I never agreed to that. Silence. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Victoria asterisk. You've been acting strange. Me asterisk. I'm just busy. Victoria, annoyed. You always made time before. Me asterisk. Things change. I ended the call. Not with anger. Not with revenge. Just peace. Narrator asterisk. That silence hurt her more than any argument ever could. Because she could no longer control my attention. Scene change. Later that evening, Ryan's voice echoed through another call. I didn't answer, but I already knew what he would say. Ryan, smooth, confident. Relax. Ethan always comes back. Ignore him. He'll apologize. I smiled to myself, because I remembered exactly how his story ended. His lies, his greed, his betrayal. This time, I wouldn't be his victim. I already knew every move before he made it. Closing music begins. The man they believed they understood had disappeared the day I died. Now, I wasn't living for approval. I wasn't sacrificing my future. I wasn't chasing someone who refused to see my worth. Every choice I made, every step I took, was building a life they could never take from me again. And neither Victoria nor Ryan had any idea that the game had already changed. Narrator, calm, mysterious. Some people destroy lives with lies. Others destroy them with smiles. Ryan had mastered both. But this time, I already knew the truth hiding behind his perfect image. I didn't need to fight him. I only needed to let his own lies expose him. 2-second pause. Every morning, I watched quietly. Every meeting. Every phone call. Every excuse. Ryan believed nobody noticed what he was doing. He was wrong. Me, calm. Keep talking, Ryan. The louder you lie, the harder you'll fall. Scene transition. One afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. I answered. Sarah, nervous. Are you Ethan? Me asterisk. Yes. Sarah asterisk. My name is Sarah. I'm Ryan's sister. I think I found something. My heart became still. I already knew what she was about to say, but hearing it in this life changed everything. Me, serious. What did you find? Sarah, shaken. I borrowed Ryan's laptop. I wasn't trying to spy, but messages kept appearing. They were about Victoria's company. He transferred money through fake accounts. And she stopped talking. Me, gently. And what? Sarah asterisk. He kept saying Victoria trusted him too much. He laughed about controlling every decision she made. I couldn't believe it. Neither could I. Not the first time. But now, nothing surprised me anymore. Me asterisk. Don't delete anything. Keep every message. You may have just saved someone's future. Soft transition. Later that evening, Sarah showed me screenshots, bank transfers, Private conversations, hidden accounts, everything pointed toward one truth. Ryan wasn't protecting Victoria. He was using her. Every smile, every compliment, every promise had a price. Narrator quietly. The truth had finally found its voice. Now all that remained was whether anyone would listen. Scene change. The next day, I walked into Victoria's office. She looked surprised. Victoria, cold. So, you finally came. Me, calm. I'm not here for us. I'm here because you need to see something. I placed the printed messages on her desk. She glanced at them. Her expression changed. Only for a second. Then, she pushed them away. Victoria, defensive. These could be fake. Me, asterisk. They're real. Victoria, asterisk. Ryan would never betray me. Me, softly. That's exactly what I used to say about you. Silence filled the room. She looked at me, then at the papers, then back at me. Victoria, angry. You're jealous. You've always hated how close Ryan and I are. I smiled sadly, not because she hurt me, because I expected those exact words. Me, asterisk. I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to believe the evidence. She folded her arms. Victoria, asterisk. I'm done with this conversation. I nodded, without another word. I walked away. Narrator, asterisk. Sometimes, the hardest truth isn't the one people hear. It's the one they refuse to accept. Scene transition. That night, we sat at the same dinner table. The room felt colder than winter. She waited for me to speak. I didn't. She waited for an argument. I stayed silent. Finally, she looked at me. Victoria, frustrated. Are you seriously not going to say anything? Me, calm. No. Victoria, asterisk. You're impossible. Me, asterisk. Maybe. I stood up, carried my empty plate to the sink, and walked upstairs. No shouting, no blame, no pleading, only silence. Narrator, deep. My silence said everything my words never could. For years, I chased every conversation. Now, I wasn't chasing anything. And somehow, that hurt her more than every fight we had ever shared. Gentle transition. The following afternoon, Grace found me sitting alone outside the office. Grace, warm. Mind if I join you? Me, soft smile. Please. She handed me a cup of coffee. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Then, Grace, asterisk. You've been carrying something heavy. I laughed quietly. Me, asterisk. Is it that obvious? Grace, asterisk. Only to someone who's carried heavy things too. I looked at her. She wasn't asking questions. She wasn't judging me. She was simply there. Grace, gentle. Respect shouldn't have to be earned through pain. If someone only values you after you've suffered, they never valued you at all. Her words settled deep inside me. They didn't erase my scars, but they reminded me that I deserved more than survival. I deserved peace. Narrator, hopeful. For the first time since my life began again, I imagined a future that didn't depend on Victoria. A future built on respect, instead of sacrifice. A future where my happiness belonged to me. And for the first time in years, that future didn't feel impossible. It finally felt real. Narrator, calm, intense. Carmen never rushes. It waits, quietly, patiently, and when the time is right, it knocks on the door no one expects. Ryan believed he was untouchable. Victoria believed her company was too powerful to fail. Neither of them saw the storm coming. But I did, because I had already lived through it once. 2-second pause. Early that morning, my phone rang. Henry, professional, serious. Ethan, the investigation is finished. We found everything. I took a slow breath. Me, calm. Tell me. Henry, asterisk. Ryan created shell companies. He moved company funds into private accounts. He approved fake contracts. And Victoria signed many of them without checking. I closed my eyes, exactly as I remembered. Only this time, I wasn't trapped inside the disaster. Me, asterisk. What happens now? Henry, asterisk. The board knows. Auditors are involved. The company is facing a major crisis. Narrator, steady. The empire Victoria trusted was beginning to crack. Not because of me, because of the man she chose to trust instead. Scene transition. News spread faster than anyone expected. Employees whispered in hallways. Phones wouldn't stop ringing. Investors demanded answers. Every headline carried another painful question. How had such a successful company fallen so quickly? I already knew the answer. Trust placed in the wrong hands. Phone vibrating. Victoria. I looked at the screen. For a moment, old memories returned. In my first life, I would have answered immediately. I would have skipped meals, canceled meetings, ignored my own dreams, just to save her company. Not anymore. I answered calmly. Victoria panicked. Ethan, I need your help. They're accusing Ryan. The board is attacking me. You've handled situations like this before. Please, tell me what to do. I stood beside the office window, watching the sunrise. My reflection looked different now. Stronger, peaceful. Me quietly. I'm sorry. I can't. Silence. Then, Victoria, shocked. What? Me asterisk. I have my own company to run. My own responsibilities. I hope you find a solution. Victoria, desperate. Ethan, you always help me. You always fix everything. I close my eyes. Me asterisk. That's exactly why I can't anymore. I spent years fixing your problems. While nobody noticed mine. Another long silence. Then the call ended. Narrator, deep. For the first time, she had to face the consequences. Without me standing in front of them. Soft transition. Later that afternoon, I walked through my own office. People greeted me with respect. Not because I sacrificed myself, but because I had earned their trust. Grace smiled as she handed me a report. Grace, warm. The project is ahead of schedule. I knew you could do it. I smiled back. Me asterisk. Thank you. It feels good building something that belongs to my future. She nodded. Grace asterisk. You stopped carrying everyone else's weight. And that's why you're finally standing tall. Her words stayed with me. Respect felt so different from pity, so different from obligation. Scene transition. That evening, Olivia visited Victoria. I wasn't there, but later, she told me every word. Olivia, gentle but firm. You keep asking why Ethan changed. The real question is, why didn't you notice him before? Victoria didn't answer. Olivia continued. Olivia asterisk. My brother loved you more than he loved himself. He gave up promotions. He gave up dreams. He gave up pieces of his life. So yours could become easier. And what did he receive? Empty promises. Lonely anniversaries. Silence. Olivia looked at Victoria with tears in her eyes. Olivia asterisk. You didn't lose Ethan today. You lost him little by little. Every time you chose someone else over him. Narrator, soft. Those words reached Victoria. Long after my own words had stopped matching. Sometimes, truth sounds louder when it comes from someone else. Scene transition. Late that night, Victoria stood outside my office. She didn't come inside. She simply watched through the glass. I was laughing with my team, planning new projects, living a life she had never bothered to understand. For the first time, she saw the man she had taken for granted, not the husband waiting at home, not the man begging for attention, but someone capable, confident, and finally free. She quietly turned away, without knocking, without speaking. Narrator reflective. Watch her confidence collapse. I expected to feel satisfaction, victory, revenge. Instead, I felt something unexpected. Peace. Because revenge had never been about making her suffer. It was about refusing to suffer any longer. I finally understood something my old self never could. You don't always win by fighting. You don't always heal by making someone cry. Sometimes, the strongest answer is simply walking away. And this time, that was exactly what I chose. Narrator, slow, emotional. The truth has a strange way of finding the light. No matter how carefully someone hides it, no matter how many lies protect it, sooner or later, the mask always falls. Ryan spent years pretending to be loyal, but the moment danger reached him, he disappeared. Just as I remembered. 2-second pause. The investigation became public. News channels repeated the same headlines. Financial fraud. Hidden accounts. Betrayal. Ryan's name was everywhere. His phone was turned off. His office was empty. His promises had vanished. Victoria, shaken. "Where's Ryan?" Nobody answered. She called again and again. Only silence greeted her. Narrator asterisk. The man she trusted without question walked away without saying goodbye. Scene transition. That afternoon, Sarah stood before reporters. Her hands trembled, but her voice remained steady. "Sarah, emotional. I can't stay silent anymore. My brother manipulated everyone around him. He lied. He stole. And he used Victoria's trust for his own benefit." She held up printed messages, bank records, private conversations. Every secret Ryan thought would stay hidden. The cameras captured everything. Within hours, his reputation collapsed. Not because of revenge, because of the truth. Narrator, deep. Sometimes, justice doesn't arrive with anger. Sometimes, it arrives with evidence. Soft transition. Meanwhile, Victoria's company was falling apart. Investors withdrew their support. Board members resigned. Meetings ended in arguments. Every problem reminded her of one painful truth. In my previous life, I solved every crisis before anyone noticed. I protected her reputation. I negotiated impossible deals. I worked through endless nights. And I never asked for credit. She never realized how many storms I quietly stopped until she had to face one alone. Victoria whispering, "I never saw how much you carried." Narrator asterisk. Regret always arrives late. That is why it hurts so much. Scene transition. A few days later, someone knocked on my office door. I already knew who it was. Victoria. She stood quietly. No expensive confidence. No cold expression. Only tired eyes. Victoria, softly. "May I come in?" I nodded. She stepped inside. Neither of us spoke. Finally, she broke the silence. Victoria asterisk. "I'm sorry. I ignored your calls. I ignored our anniversaries. I ignored your loneliness. I thought you'd always be there." Her voice cracked. I was wrong. I listened without interrupting. Every apology reached my heart, because every word reminded me of the man I used to be. Me quietly. I waited for those words for a very long time. She lowered her head. Victoria asterisk. "I know. I was selfish. I thought success mattered more than love. I kept choosing work until there was nobody left waiting for me." Tears rolled down her face. For a moment, I almost reached for her hand. Old habits are difficult to forget. Old love, even harder. Narrator, soft. A part of me still remembered the woman I married. Not the woman standing before me. The woman I believed she could become. That memory was the hardest thing to let go. Gentle transition. That evening, I met Grace at a quiet cafe. She noticed my silence immediately. "Grace, gentle. You saw her today." I smiled faintly. "Me asterisk. Is it that obvious?" She nodded. Grace asterisk. "How do you feel?" I stared into my coffee. Me asterisk. I wanted an apology for years. Now that I've finally heard it, it doesn't make the pain disappear. Grace listened patiently. She didn't interrupt. She didn't judge. When I finished, she spoke softly. Grace asterisk. "Forgiveness is a beautiful thing. But don't confuse forgiveness with returning to the same pain." I looked at her. She continued. Grace asterisk. "Guilt can sound like kindness. But wisdom asks a different question. Has anything truly changed?" Her words stayed with me, because deep inside, I already knew the answer. Narrator asterisk. Kindness should never require self-destruction. Love should never demand that one person disappears. so another can shine. Scene transition. That night, I stood alone beneath the stars. The same sky, the same city, a completely different life. I remembered the hospital, the accident, my final breath. I remembered promising myself that if I ever received another chance, I would never beg for love again. Now, that promise stood before me, disguised as forgiveness. Me whispering, "I forgive you." The words felt lighter than I expected. Then I whispered something else. Me asterisk, but I don't know if forgiveness means going back. The wind carried my voice into the night. No answer came, only silence. But this silence felt different. It wasn't empty. It was peaceful. Narrator, closing, emotional. The hardest battle of my second life was no longer against betrayal. It was against my own heart. Could I forgive someone without giving them another chance? That question followed me into the darkness, and I knew the answer would decide the rest of my life. Narrator, slow, reflective. People believe the hardest words to say are, "I hate you." They are wrong. The hardest words are goodbye, especially when part of your heart still remembers how deeply it once loved. 2-second pause. The rain fell quietly outside my office. A gentle knock echoed through the room. I already knew who it was. Victoria. Victoria, soft, nervous. "May come in?" Me calm. "Come in." She stepped inside. No designer confidence. No cold expression. Just quiet regret. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she looked into my eyes. Victoria, tearful. "I've spent every day thinking about us. I understand everything now. I finally see how badly I hurt you. I can't change the past. But please, let me start again." She took a careful step closer. Victoria asterisk. "I don't want the old marriage. I want to build a new one. I want to become a wife you always deserved." Her voice trembled. Every word sounded honest. Every tear was real. Months ago, those words would have meant everything to me. Today, they only reminded me of everything I had already lost. Narrator, soft. Sometimes, an apology arrives after the person who needed it has already learned how to live without it. Gentle pause. I looked at her, then I looked beyond her, toward the window, toward a future I had almost never received. Me, quietly. "Do you know what I remember every morning?" She slowly shook her head. Me asterisk. "I remember dying. I remember lying on a cold road, wondering why I spent my whole life begging for love." She covered her mouth. Tears rolled down her cheeks. But I continued. Me asterisk. "I remember eating alone on our anniversary. I remember every unanswered message, every lonely dinner, every promise that became another excuse." My voice remained calm, not because the pain had disappeared, because I had finally accepted it. Victoria, crying, "I'm sorry. I know those words aren't enough, but they're all I have." I nodded gently. Me asterisk. "I know, and I believe you." She looked up with hope. For a brief second, she thought hope meant a second chance. Then I spoke again. Me, softly. "There is something else I remember. The daughter we never got to raise. The future we never had. The family that disappeared before it could even begin. I carry those memories every day. They remind me that some losses can never be undone." Silence filled the room. The rain outside grew heavier. Narrator asterisk. My second life wasn't just another chance. It was a gift. A gift I refused to spend rebuilding the same pain. Scene transition. Victoria slowly reached for my hand. I didn't pull away, but I didn't hold hers either. Victoria whispering, "Please, tell me what I can do. I'll wait. I'll change. I'll spend the rest of my life proving that I love you." I smiled sadly, not because I doubted her, because I finally understood myself. Me asterisk. "You already changed, and I'm proud of you. You finally became the woman I prayed for." She smiled through her tears. Then, my next words broke the silence forever. Me firm, gentle. but you became her after I stopped needing her. Her smile slowly disappeared. I squeezed her hand once. A quiet goodbye. Nothing more. Me asterisk. I forgive you. I truly do. But forgiveness doesn't erase the past. And it doesn't always create another future. She lowered her head. Her tears fell onto the floor. Victoria, broken. So, this is really the end. I took a slow breath, then answered with complete honesty. Me asterisk. No, this is the beginning. The beginning of your healing. And mine. Soft transition. She nodded, slowly, painfully. Then she walked toward the door. Before leaving, she turned back one last time. Victoria, faint smile. I hope you're happy. I smiled. A real smile. The kind I hadn't felt in years. Me asterisk. I think I'm finally learning how. She quietly closed the door behind her. The room became silent again. But this silence wasn't filled with loneliness. It was filled with peace. Narrator, hopeful. For years, I believed winning meant making someone regret losing me. I was wrong. Winning meant waking up every morning, without resentment, without anger, without fear. I didn't choose revenge. I didn't return to the past. I chose something far more difficult. I chose peace. Closing, emotional. As I walked toward the window, the clouds slowly opened. Sunlight broke through the rain. For the first time, I wasn't carrying the weight of yesterday. I wasn't waiting for someone to love me. I finally loved the man looking back at me. And in that quiet moment, I realized something beautiful. The greatest freedom wasn't being chosen by someone else. It was finally choosing myself. Narrator, warm, reflective. People often ask, what does revenge feel like? A year ago, I thought revenge meant watching someone lose everything. Today, I know the truth. Real victory feels nothing like revenge. It feels like peace. 2-second pause. 1 year had passed. My company continued to grow. Every project carried my name. Every success reminded me of one simple lesson. The moment I stopped chasing approval, life finally began chasing me. For the first time in years, I woke up excited about tomorrow, not afraid of it. Scene transition. Grace stood beside me at our newest project. She smiled as she looked at the finished building. Grace, warm. We did it. I laughed softly. Me asterisk. No. We did it together. She looked at me with the same quiet respect she had shown from the very beginning. Not because I was successful, not because I had money, but because she saw me. The real me, Grace asterisk. You know what I admire most about you? Me, smiling. What? Grace asterisk. You never let pain decide the kind of man you want to become. Her words settled gently in my heart, because she was right. Pain had changed me, but it hadn't destroyed me. It had taught me. Narrator, soft. Love built on respect. Feels very different from love built on sacrifice. One asks you to disappear. The other helps you become yourself. Gentle transition. Life continued moving forward. Not only for me, but for Victoria too. She no longer chased me. She no longer called late at night. Instead, she rebuilt her company honestly. She apologized to the people she had hurt. She listened more. She judged less. Losing everything had finally taught her the value of what couldn't be bought. Respect, trust, love. Narrator asterisk. Sometimes people truly change, not because life is kind, but because pain becomes their greatest teacher. Scene transition. One quiet afternoon, I received a message. Victoria, text. Could we meet one last time? I looked at the screen for a long moment. Then I replied. Me, text. Yes. We met at a small park, the same place where we once dreamed about our future. Now, it was simply a peaceful place between two different lives. Victoria smiled gently as I approached. There was sadness in her eyes, but no expectation, no pressure, only acceptance. Victoria, calm. Thank you for coming. Me asterisk. You're welcome. We walked slowly beneath the trees. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then she quietly broke the silence. Victoria, emotional. I've had a year to think. I finally understand something. She stopped walking, looked at me, and smiled sadly. Victoria asterisk. I didn't lose you because of Ryan. I didn't lose you because of work. I lost you because every day I chose not to see the man standing beside me. A tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. Victoria asterisk. Ignoring you was the greatest mistake of my life. I looked into her eyes. For the first time, I saw complete honesty. Not regret born from fear, but regret born from understanding. I smiled, not with bitterness, not with victory, but with gratitude. Me, softly. Thank you. She looked surprised. Victoria asterisk. For what? Me asterisk. For finally understanding. You gave me something I spent years searching for. Not your love. Your truth. She nodded slowly, then asked the question she had carried for months. Victoria, quietly, can you ever forgive me completely? I took a deep breath. The answer came easily, because my heart was finally free. Me asterisk. I already have. I forgave you the day I stopped blaming you for my happiness. Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time, they weren't tears of despair. They were tears of peace. Narrator, hopeful. Forgiveness didn't bring us back together. It simply allowed both of us to keep moving forward. Gentle pause. Before leaving, Victoria smiled one last time. Victoria asterisk. I hope whoever walks beside you next knows how lucky they are. I smiled, thinking of grace, thinking of the future, thinking of the man I had become. Me asterisk. I think she already does. Victoria laughed quietly. A genuine laugh, perhaps the first honest one we had ever shared. Then she turned and walked away. She never looked back. Neither did I. Narrator, deep, emotional. As I continued walking, the afternoon sunlight warmed my face. A gentle breeze carried away the last pieces of yesterday. Only then did I fully understand why I had been given another chance. My rebirth was never about revenge. It was never about making someone suffer. It was never about proving my worth. It was about saving the man who had forgotten his own value. I stopped for a moment, closed my eyes, and smiled, not because life had become perfect, but because I had finally found peace within myself. Final closing, slow, inspiring. If my first life taught me how painful love without respect can be, my second life taught me something far more important. The greatest revenge isn't watching someone regret losing you. It's becoming someone who no longer needs a person who once broke your heart. And with that truth, I walked toward tomorrow, not as the man who died full of regret, but as the man who finally chose to live.